Hi, my name is Feyi Olubodun and I'm an under 40 CEO.
The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nation shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them under 40 CEOs.
Feyi Olubodun is the general manager at Insight Communications. Prior to his appointment in January 2015, he successfully managed the strategic planning department for over 4 years. Feyi is a marketing and strategy professional, a global executive MBA holder with extensive experience in data analysis, consumer insight management, account planning, and strategy management. Feyi helps develop capabilities both in client organizations and within Insight Communications. He has proven results in pioneering new arenas in organizations, particularly in the areas of corporate strategy, strategic consulting, general management, and organizational development. Welcome to Under 40 CEO, Mr. Feyi Olubodun.
Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah. All right. Now, you've been quoted to have said there's no greatness without some level of discipline. And would you mind sharing with me about this journey from discipline through to greatness?
For me, it's always been a case of, having the ambition to be part of an organization that makes a map, makes a stamp on the global map. And doing that as always, you just have to do more. The other day someone asked me, why did I feel I needed to go and do an MBA from a school like Duke? And I said, the answer is simple. I'm a Nigerian with a background in psychology. I have to do that because being good is not enough. The fact that you're from Nigeria, you have to actually be excellent. Otherwise, nobody will pay attention to you. And that excellence happens only with a lot of a disciplined lifestyle, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of sleeplessness, a lot of drive, learning to sort of push yourself beyond your own personal boundaries and your comfort zone, so that you can get to where you need to get. And that's why, I say that to the entire organization, and I'm building that ethos here as a way that we think about things and as a way that we work.
Now, what would you say, firstly, makes you special? And secondly, how can one find that one thing that makes them different?
What makes me different is or special, if you will, is that in life I tend to follow the questions. I don't follow the answers. And that is how I've sort of mapped my career all the way. Every career move I've made, I've always been to follow a particular question. So when I was working as a data analyst at TNS RMS, I began to ask myself, every day I process this data, I generate reports, and I send it to some guys in the research department who interface with the clients. And I ask myself, what exactly do they do with this data? Where does it go? Are they using it properly? And that resulted in me later transiting to the research department, where I became client-facing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah? And then for some years, I worked in the research department, analyzing that data, interpreting it, making recommendations from it. And at some point, I asked myself the question again. I passed this on to certain clients and so on. What do they do with it? What strategies do they develop from it? And I followed that question and ended up in the strategic planning department at Insight Communications, where I eventually rose to become the head of the department. And while I was the head of the department again, I had the assignment of sort of driving the corporate strategy initiative for the entire organization, putting together strategy retreats and all of that, and making sure that we implemented those things. And I began to experience some difficulties in implementing the strategy, because it's very nice to have a nice strategy document and all of that. And so I began to ask myself again another question. What does it take for an organization to see the future? Because a strategy is a preferred future. And what do they need to do to get there? How does that happen? And that question took me to Duke to go and do an MBA. because I wanted to understand the different aspects of business. And ultimately now I'm in a role where I'm required to drive the business into the future.
What's your typical day like running the number one creative advertising agency in Nigeria?
I think my my day begins pretty early with the first thing I do typically is to check my emails, because there are very few days that I don't wake up to an email from a client saying, can I talk to you about this? We need to get this done now. And all the clients want everything yesterday and all of that, So in between getting ready for the day, having a cup of coffee and checking emails and looking at things. And of course, I typically have to arrive at the office. That's if I don't go straight to a meeting. Arrive at the office with a layout of what the day will look like. And then that involves talking to the managers of the different units and saying, this needs to be done, that needs to be done, we need to drive this, push that through and all of that. And ultimately talking to clients. Every day I have to talk to some client or the other, email, phone calls, and we're pushing things through. It's a high energy environment, it's a high energy business, it's a high energy agency. So leading the agency, you have to come to with a lot of energy, more than anything else. Giving time is not enough. One has to also give a high level of energy to keep driving things forward.
True. Now you're an advertising man through and through, and you have said the reason we do not yet attract that global recognition for our work is because we do not sell to the Nigerian in a Nigerian way. Now, is Insight leading the change in that direction?
We are. I've said that so many times on so many occasions because I believe it's true. A lot of what we do in creativity, we're trying to ape the West. Now, one of the things we're doing at Insight is we're developing gradually a framework, a perspective to viewing the African consumer. And if you check YouTube and you type in the African consumer, you'll actually see a video in which I'm presenting a framework somewhere in the UK at the ESCP Euro Business School. And I talk about the African consumer, and I say that the African consumer is a villager. And I go on to explain that the villager is a psychological construct that has 8 components that define who the African is. Now, for you to sell successfully to that man, you have to understand that he's a villager, regardless of how he dresses. We say that the African and the Nigerian, by extension, is modernized, not westernized. So we dress cool, we look cool, but inside we still have certain elements to speak to the village construct. We still have things like a herd mentality. The Nigerian man still says my mates are achieving this and not yet achieved that. The American does not say that. He doesn't think that way. But we have that thinking. We still have community rituals that we follow through. We still have issues of community affirmation and all of that. And we definitely have what I call the value of an enemy. The African man must have an enemy. It's a construct. It definitely has to have an enemy. The mere fact that churches that talk about killing enemies and all of that are peculiar to African. You don't go to a US church and see people saying, let my enemy die. They don't think. The reason is that the African man has a locus of control that is external, and we need to sell to that. That's what we get. The world does not want to see more of the West. They want to see Africa. They want to see Nigeria. So we've got to do that.
Feyi is a widely traveled professional and scholar, a graduate of psychology and alumnus of the Pan-Atlantic University and the prestigious Duke University, the Fuqua School of Business. But let's go back. You have this global executive MBA and with extensive experience in data analysis and consumer insight. But you've said something that I found very, very interesting. You said that Nigerians are the most sexually satisfied people in the world.
Durex said that. But it's a nice story.
It's a statement backed by data.
I say that often in a lot of the talks, and it's actually quite true. It's based on the Durex research, and it is true. It is true. It's quite true. And what you see is that I find that that's one of the situations where that insight is being wasted. It's not being used. It exists there. If you listen to our music as well, the way we nuance sexual stuff in songs, right from the days of the likes of King Sunny Ade and all of that, you see that it's something that is part of who we are generally. But it's an insight that's lying out there, and we've not really used it for anything, so to speak.
Beautiful. Now let's come back to Inside Communications. What's the current business structure of this firm?
Organogram, basically, well, I'm the head of the business, and then we have an executive team that reports to me. Myself and a number of those executive team members were on the board of the company. And we've got a vice chairman who oversees the business. That's Mr. Jimmy Aoshika. He used to be the head of the business. He ran it for many years, and is one of the founders. He's been here from the start.
Wow.
And then we've got a massive team under that, organized in around 3 core operational departments: account management, or what is also known as client service. We've got the strategic planning guys, and then we've got the creative team, and then we have all the usual support units that you have in any other organization, your finance, your admin, your HR, and all of that there. But in total, we're about 95 to 100.
Oh, nice.
In size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, what are those values and unique processes that drive decision making at Insight?
So one of our core values, perhaps the strongest, is that we build our business by building clients' businesses. And that particular value is so layered into everything we do, because even as far down the line as the creative ideas that we come up with, we ask ourselves the question: will this build the client business? What will this do for the client? Yes, we want it to do something for us, but we also realize that there's no point having a client on your roster when the client is not doing well. And we are their creative partner. We should be in a position which we can advise the client, we can support them in their decisions to help their business grow. Because if their business grows, then we grow. We also say here that none of us is smarter than all of us. It's part of why we have a creative process that we call the open and long, which is very different. The typical creative process in any agency is a linear process where the client service guy takes a brief. He looks at the brief, refines it, passes it to strategic planning. Strategic planning will do research, come up with consumer insight, pass it to creative. And the creative will come up, and 2 weeks later, we'll all sit down to see whether what they've done makes sense or not. And at that point, everybody is shooting each other. And in this whole process, the client is not involved. We changed that and said, it is not possible that one person is smarter than everybody together. So now we have a process where from the start, everybody that will be involved in the project sits together in the same room at the same time. So those are some of the values that drive what we do here.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Now, I'm sure as a business, you encounter challenges on a daily. What was the last challenge you encountered, and how did you resolve it?
The last challenge was really a case of a new client changing hands. We typically have especially when you have an expatriate structure, where the senior clients is typically expatriate. The more middle level clients are typically Nigerians. Occasionally those guys are on rotation, they are on they are on contracts. And the last challenge we had was the contract for one senior client ended, and they brought in a new one. And it was a case of, typically we won't go. We will expect that the local middle level guys would facilitate an introduction with those guys. But because they were also going through a lot of restructuring, that was not going to happen, at least on time. And then it sort of brought the account under threat, because typically every new senior client wants to move things around and restructure things to suit their own vision for the business. But after a while, we realized that, we're going to go meet this guy. We're going to have a conversation with him, and it ended up with me writing a mail to this senior client, new guy: welcome to Nigeria. I'd like to come and meet you, introduce my agency, and invite you over. And thankfully, the guy obliged me. I went in there, had a chat with him. We got introduced, got to know the agency. He came over to the agency. When he visited the agency and he saw our credentials, he was so impressed. And at the end, he said, number one, it turned out that no Nigerian agency had actually reached out to him to welcome and we're the first to do that. That we're the only ones that even invited him to come over. When he saw what we were doing, he was so impressed that he went on to say, you know what, I would love to continue partnering with you guys. And that was it's more of a nuanced political challenge, if you will, but it's a real one. In our business, it's very, very real. You know, accounts get moved just based on scenarios like that.
Okay, so Feyi, tell me, what's your leadership style?
Yeah, so my leadership style is more of a visionary leadership style. I have a leadership style that likes the people around me to be empowered. I don't like working with people that I have to be pulling, and I don't like working with people that hold me in awe or worship me. You know, because for me there's no value in it. I like working with people that are superstars in their own right, that are bigger than me. And I can just push them. I say to the guys that when they talk about an invisible CEO, think of Feyi, because I typically don't like being the one in the front unless I have to.
Wow, based on your leadership style, I'm sure that you must have a unique way of managing delegation, basically. How do you handle delegation?
Well, typically, my style is very simple. If I want to delegate anything, I'll sit down with the person, brief them face to face, we'll agree on components of it, and I'll typically send you an email to follow up, just to recap.
Okay.
You know, we agreed on this, you have to do it. My style thereafter is to give you a bit of room. My supervision level is not, I don't micromanage. I give you that room, but you have to deliver within the time frame. When that doesn't happen, however, I tend to, you know, sort of manage things a bit more closely. And all. But that's how I'm very, very comfortable delegating. Very comfortable with it.
Okay, beautiful. You mentioned all of the superstars that work with you. How do you hire these superstars?
Oh, I think it's not really a question of me. Though I have hired some people recently. First, there's the organization itself. Building an organization that is attractive, that people want to work in, is very key. And I think we've been able to achieve that from the time of the founders right down to my time, to have an organization that's very exciting for people to work in. Recently, Jobberman rated Insights as one of the top 3 organizations that the millennials want to work in.
Oh, wow.
You know, and this was totally independent. We were not aware they were doing it. They published the report and our names popped up. So that attraction is there. But in recruiting these very senior people, the managers, I sell the vision to them, say this is where we're going. The reason I do that is you can recruit your senior managers either of 2 ways. You can sell to them the rewards of them becoming a senior manager in your company. So these are the perks, these are this and all of that. Or you can sell to them the vision that lies ahead. And all this is determined by where you are as an organization. Even though we're 35 years in this business, we say that we're a 35 years young company. Because we still have a lot to go, a lot to do, a lot of distance to go. So it's important for us to have managers that are not here to harvest. They are here to sow. And for that to happen, you have to show them the vision. Say, this is where we are going. This is what the journey looks like.
All right, Feyi, tell me, what projects are you currently working on at Insight?
I wouldn't call it a project. I'll call it more like a horizon, so to speak. And the word we use to describe it, we call it globalness. That frames everything we're doing. We've been doing this year and for the next 18 months or so. And globalness for us is we asked ourselves, we've conquered the Nigerian market. We've been the leader in this market by billions. Size of business for the past 25 years. We've been the most creatively awarded agency for the past 10 years. You know, we've conquered this market. And the question for us is, what is next for us? And it became clear to us as a business that the next frontier for us is to take this agency and put it on the global stage. And that is important because as of today, there is no African agency that has recognition on the global advertising map. And so we said that's where we're going to. That's what we're doing next. And we frame that as globalness, which means being able to bring to the world a Nigerian agency in ethos, in roots, in structure, in everything, but that does work and operates in a way that is globally comparable and globally admirable.
Is under 40 CEOs. We'll be right back.
For a man who runs the biggest creative advertising firm in Nigeria, Feyi Olubodun may not have a lot of spare time, but what does he derive pleasure doing? How does he spend the little spare time he has, and who does he look up to? I must find out. Okay, so I have a few quick fire questions for you. What do you love to eat?
Rice.
Rice?
I'm telling you,
Beautiful.
with snail.
How would you describe your style?
I like being understated with my style, but with a touch of color.
What other CEOs do you currently look up to?
Tim Cook. I love
Amazing
anything
guy.
about Apple anyway.
Yeah.
I've always admired Steve Jobs. I love Tim Cook. I also love the guys behind Netflix.
Okay.
I really admire the way they've been able to transition the company significantly. Elon Musk is somebody I look up to. Oluwakomo, who is currently used to be CMO at Airtel, but is currently a senior vice president at FCMB. I respect Oluwakomo a lot. He actually used to be client service director at Insight.
Oh wow.
Is one of the few professionals that has transitioned at senior levels across different industries, from pharmaceutical to sales to marketing to advertising to banking to telco. The guy just keeps moving across the top and all of that. It's just incredible how he does that. So yeah.
What are your favorite brands to wear?
Watch at Tag Heuer. That's
Okay.
I love the story behind the brand, how they think.
Okay.
Pierre Cardin for shirts, and generally British brands.
What's your favorite car to drive?
Jaguar.
Your favorite travel destination?
This sounds very Nigerian, but I actually find that I like the UK a lot. Not London in particular, but the UK a lot. Primarily because I get to walk there easily.
Okay.
I like going for long walks. It helps me to think. We don't get to do that a lot around here.
What's your favorite book of all time?
100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Primarily because of the storytelling style that was adopted. It's just epic.
What book are you reading right now? Okay.
Currently, I'm reading now The Will to Manage, which is a book written by Marvin Bauer. Marvin Bauer is the person that took over McKinsey when the founder left, and is a man that built the McKinsey consulting that we know today. I like the way he thinks and the way he approaches stuff. I'm also reading a book called Moments of Truth by a man called Jan Carlson, who is the guy that was CEO of Scandinavian Airlines in the early 80s, and he's the guy that revolutionized how the airline business has been practiced globally.
So lastly, I would like to know, what makes you happy?
A good book, a nice poem. I'm a simple guy. I have simple taste, and all of that. Good conversations with quality friends. That matters a lot.
Thank you for coming on Under 40 CEOs,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Feyi
much,
Olubodun.
Fab. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Feyi Olubodun. You can also be an Under 40 CEO.